All right. Thank you, Earl. I appreciate that. Let's switch gears to the Browns here, guys.
Yes.
Free agency is pretty much over. Obviously, there's a few significant names out there. One guy on the Browns' radar apparently is Al Woods, veteran defensive tackle who's played for the Seahawks.
Played for a bunch of teams.
He's played for a bunch of teams, but most recently for the Seahawks.
Yes.
So let's talk about this guy. Listen, we're not trying to fool you here. This is not a massive story. No. Al Woods at this point in his career is not a game changer. But what do you think about Al Woods there? Mikey, start us off.
It's not a massive story, but he's a massive guy who could plug a big hole in the middle for the Browns. Just based on pure stature, Woods is listed generously at 6'4", 330.
Yeah, he's more than 330.
Generously listed at 330. Yeah. If you put him and Tomlinson in the middle together, that is 650 to 700 pounds of beef up front.
Yeah.
I know where your mind's at.
Yeah.
Beef up front to help clog the interior gaps, which was obliterated last year by the teams running the ball. And the way I look at this is if they do go out and sign a guy like Woods, he's being brought in as a two-down player. First and second down against the run, you have Woods next to Tomlinson. And then you bring in a guy like Mo Hurst or Tristan Hill, two of the guys that took flyers on who, at least based on historical production, have been much more effective against the pass than the run. For his career, Woods has like 10 career sacks in 12 seasons. Like, he's not a guy that you expect to get to the quarterback, but he is good against the run. The PFF grades back that up. And him alongside a Hurst or a Tristan Hill or a Winfrey, in theory, could be a nice combo at that second defensive tackle position.
Yeah, I don't think he's washed. Like, he's a veteran, but I don't think he's washed by him. And it's not going to cost him a ton of money if they do sign him. I think he was due like 4.5 this year. I think somewhere around that.
4.35. Something right now.
Yeah. So it's not going to cost him a ton of money. They do still have a little bit left under the cap to wiggle with. He missed the 2020 season, sat out for COVID, so that is 1 year of wear and tear off his body. I think he was suspended for a few games in 2019 for performance enhancing. But you know, Seattle switched from a 4-3 to 3-4 last year for whatever that's worth. I know a lot of people dismiss that because everyone plays such hybrid defenses anymore. But obviously he's more comfortable in the 4-3. I think it would be great. And we talked about it before. You just need to have multiple bodies to roll in, and the Browns haven't had that across the defensive line. So if you can get these guys coming in waves to where they're not having to play, as Mikey was saying, if you don't have to play all three downs, that's not a bad thing. That can only be a good thing. So yeah, I mean, I think it'd be great if they could get him. You know, there is competition for him. You know, the Jets, I think, are interested in him.
He visited the Cowboys, too.
Yeah, and the Seahawks GM, who wears flip-flops to nice dinners,
John Schneider,
said that it was a cap casualty. It wasn't, you know, they'd love to have him back.
Right.
So maybe there's a way Seattle does try and bring him back.
Well,
so there's interest in him.
Yeah.
This isn't a throwaway at the end of his career.
No, but he's a guy that you can get, as you said, very cheaply, right? He's not going to cost too much money.
No.
And the thing is, guys, we saw last year that at defensive tackle, the Browns, every player that played defensive tackle for the Browns was a negative player.
Yes.
Right? He was a bottom-of-the-barrel player. We've talked about this a lot. When the good teams, the best teams in the NFL, the Eagles, the Bengals, the Chiefs, the Bills, like these the Niners, it's not like they have it's not like those teams have that many more, or even any more, superstars than the Browns. The difference between those teams and the Browns and some other teams is those teams have really good second-tier players.
Yep.
A lot of them, third-tier players. The Browns are light on second- and third-tier players. That's the difference. Not everybody you bring in, especially this year. First of all, most superstars don't hit free agency. Right. Even guys who are borderline Tier 1, Tier 2 players. Most of
even
those
like Jesse Bates, those guys rarely actually hit the open market.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when they do, they're past their prime anyway. So it's guys like this that are contributors, solid players that you need, because that's what the Browns didn't have. Yeah. So you've already signed 3 defensive tackles that were veterans, including Tomlinson, who's the premier addition they made there. So adding a 4th guy, you want that's another thing. The good teams have good depth where you can use not just your 5th guy, but your 6th, your 7th, even an 8th guy that can rotate in. Because no matter how good you are on the defensive line, if you could take, like, as great as Myles Garrett is even, I'd rather him play, 90% of snaps instead of 95, you know? Any few plays you can find to take him off because I have somebody else that could throw in there for a couple of plays is going to help him down the stretch of the game or in key moments. So I think having extra bodies even if they're just good, solid players like Al Woods, it makes a lot of sense. Rather than another rookie or a guy who was a rookie last year who was a negative player.
And you talk about Woods and having guys that just are guys, and you need guys that are just guys. And one thing Woods does maybe better than almost any defensive tackle in the league is he is exactly, you know what you're getting exactly from Woods. He's played at least 12 games in 10 straight seasons outside the COVID season.
Yeah.
At least 12. From a defensive tackle, those guys don't always stay healthy. It's easy to get your ankle rolled up on, your knee caught, twisted, whatever. He's played at least 12 games in 10 straight years. So that can change, obviously. I don't want to knock on wood, jinx this dude, but I'm not pulling a G. Bush wishing for an injury by any means. But you know if you sign a guy like Al Woods, at least based on his track record, he's going to be there for 75% of the season, and he's played 12 NFL seasons. 11 of those seasons, he's had at least a 61 PFF grade against the run. You look at the three defensive tackles they rotated in last year, Taven Bryan, Perrion Winfrey, and Togiai, and Jordan Elliott. 117, 125, 129, 130. So it's a massive upgrade by that metric alone. Now, the PFF's not everything.
No.
But you get consistency in a guy that you know has performed better for a prolonged period of time than anyone you're rolling the dice on.
And I would just add, also, we've talked before about they've been really good on these one-year signings, finding guys on the margins.
Yeah, right.
They've really excelled at that. And this feels like, again, it's not done yet, but it feels like if they can get that done, that feels like another one of those. And another thing real quick, we didn't really talk about it before the show. Did you guys see Robert Woods is out?
We're gonna mention that in a sec.
Okay.
Yeah.
Michael Woods.
Michael Woods.
I'm sorry.
The receiver.
Robert Woods is out.
Also injury-prone receiver.
Who got overpaid in free agency by.
He got a lot of money by the Texans, right?
Yeah, I think it was the Texans, which makes no sense because they stink.